Hey guys, so let's talk about cancel culture. Now, if I'm gonna give my own personal opinion at the beginning of this video, I'm just gonna flat out say that I believe cancel culture has been around for a lot longer than what it's been pretty much noted for, which is the past 15, 10 years, 5 years, if you will. I think cancel culture has been around for at least half a century. Now, the reason I say that is because I want you to notice that a lot of the changes that's been happening over the past couple of years, due to the influence of council culture, seems very similar to some changes we may have noticed throughout the past, let's say, 40 years prior, before, certain things have happened recently in the past 5 years. There are things that have changed, from an entertainment perspective, a sporting perspective, a political perspective. In the past 50 years or past 40 plus years that we're starting to notice is very similar to what's going on with certain, entertainments, entertainment avenues, sporting situations, political stuff, even nowadays, that I don't think any of us can help but wonder if maybe cancel culture was around a lot longer than we're giving it credit for. And despite who you believe is behind the creation of cancel culture and the reasoning for being around, I don't think there's no denying, like I said, that they've had an influence for a lot longer than we're expected to believe. I mean, when I go back to the 90s and being a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, one season you have Sally was just wearing boots and all that and, nothing else. And then the following season you have her wearing a vest, and then you find out what the reasoning was. But then you kind of wonder, maybe perhaps looking back now, and especially what's going on with cancel culture, you can't help but wonder if maybe cancel culture had had a play in that, or had an assistance in that happening. And it's not just with entertainment, animation, live action itself. I mean, especially when it comes to wardrobe, additions or modifications or character designs and all that. But you also have, let's say, characters' personalities being altered and being different than what they originally were. Or you have stories that are planned to go one way and then they get slightly altered to be, like this, or to go this way, or end in a way not originally planned, or different from the original plan, I should say. And then when you look at sports, you notice that sometimes teams over the past 50 years, and if not recently, have had, the but have had their team colors changed, have had their logos changed, has had the team's name changed, they've had the mascots changed. They had all this happen, and, all in all, nobody really gave a legitimate answer as to, oh, well, this is why and that's why and things like that. And the thing is, we never got a legitimate answer. I mean, nowadays, when you look at, let's say, like the Washington NFL team losing their mascot and their logo and their name after, years of having it, nearly over almost 100 years. Now you kind of get an idea as to who is kind of assisting in that happening, cancel culture and all that. But now it makes you wonder, with other teams in sport and other sports, if you will, throughout the past 50 years going through something similar, you have to say to yourself or ask yourself, did cancel culture have a hand in that as well? In those changes as well. The same with the political world. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened in the political world in recent years that you see similar things that happened, way before that. And you say to yourself, and again, you have to ask and wonder, did cancel culture have, a hand in those changes as well, even way back then? And I have to believe they did. Now, cancel culture may not have been as prominent or notable, back then, 50 years ago, as they are now, because nowadays, you have in the past, 20, 25 years, you have the advent of the internet. You have the advent of social media sites like Facebook, Tumblr, MySpace, Instagram, Snapchat. You have the advent of, video uploading sites, video media sites, if you will, like YouTube, Blimp TV, Vimeo, BitChute, you name it. You have all these different sites now all these different avenues, I should say, all these different options for a group like cancel culture to go down and spread the message as to what they believe in is, not appropriate or needs to be changed, altered, retired, whatever the case may be. Basically now they have more of a spotlight given to them than they ever had back when they probably originally began, in my opinion, and I'm sure others would agree with this, back in the 1970s, maybe the beginning of the decade, the 1970s, and even midway through. So in my personal opinion, and again, I think I'm not alone in this, cancel culture has had an impact and has had a hand in a lot of significant changes for the almost half a century. And again, the reason they weren't as notable in doing so as they are now is because back then there was no social medias, there were no internet, there were no YouTubes and all that. But nowadays there is, and like I said, now they got all these different options and avenues to go down to spread their message, to influence others to follow their lead and find things that they feel falls under the category of being canceled. And, thanks to cancel culture and those associated with them. Again, despite who you believe is behind it and for what reasons. But what do you guys think? Do you think cancel culture has been around for a lot longer than we're giving it credit for? Do you think it has been around for about 50 plus years or so? What do you guys think? Because again, when you really think about it, a lot of changes happened. Like with Saturday morning cartoons, even back in the 70s, all of a sudden they were starting to kind of get behind making them more educational, for people or for kids on Saturday mornings when all they wanted was a break from that. You can't tell me that it wasn't just the parental groups that wanted that to happen, but perhaps cancel culture had an influencing hand in that as well. You gotta kind of think about that and wonder that, if you know what I mean. But what do you guys think? Do you think they've been around as long as I and probably others believe they have been, which is over 50 years? Or do you think maybe they've just been around for the past 5 to 15? Let me know down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you on this. But let me know. Comment. Let me know in the live chat. And I am out.